KSTP Sports presents the LouHoltzShow. The LouHoltzShow is brought to you tonight by Midwest Federal, your good tree to come to for shelter since 1891. By Snapper Snow Throwers, available at over 300 independent servicing snapper dealers in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And by your 16 Twin City Northland Ford dealers. Nobody knows the Northland like Ford. Now here is the University of Minnesota's head football coach Lou Holtz and Channel 5 Sports Director Bob Bruce.
All right, great to see you again, everybody, and welcome to the Lou Holtz Show. We got a great show planned for you tonight. Of course, a big win last Saturday by the University of Minnesota over Purdue. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, let me tell you, in our audience tonight, we have Pilgrim Lutheran Church, a great group from that church, and we also have the Highland Park High School football team. They are with us tonight, and they'll have questions for the coach a bit later on. First of all, Lou, 45-15. Now, I told you before we started the show tonight, I thought the Gophers were going to beat Purdue, but I didn't know you were going to blow them right out of the tub.
Well, whether we blew them out of the tub or beat them, it's still only one win. Some people had a tendency after the game to think, boy, that was worth 3 or 4. Our football players played great. It was a real tribute to our assistant coaches and our players how well the team did perform. I think maybe we caught Purdue a little bit flat after their great win after Notre Dame, but in any event, I don't wish to take anything away from our football team because we played very well. It was a Big Ten opener. We're looking forward to that for an awful long time, Bob.
Now, something you just said there makes me a little nervous. You caught Purdue flat after their win over Notre Dame. The Gophers just had a big win over Purdue, and they've got to play Northwestern this week, a team that hasn't exactly been kind to the Gophers lately. How has the emotional stability of the team been during practice this week?
Well, if I were to get murdered tonight, they would have so many suspects on our football team. They couldn't possibly investigate it all. And it goes back to Woody Hayes. As I told the players, you know, I don't need to tell you how great you are. You have a million different people telling you that. The main thing that I've got to do is to prepare you for Northwestern. That's my job. Our assistant coach has done a great job. We've had a good week's preparation, and I just can't believe this football team, as hard as they worked, will not be ready to play Saturday. Whether it's good enough to win or not remains to be seen.
We've got some great highlights from that Purdue game and much more for you, including the KSTP Electronic Playmaker, coming up right here on the Lou Holtz Show. Don't go away. Coach, when you look at the scoreboard and you see 45 points, the tendency is to say, hey, the offense played a great game, and they did, but you can't overlook the performance by the Gopher defense.
Well, you can't possibly score an awful lot of points without having help from the defense, nor can you hold a team to very few points without having the offense control the football. But what we said a week ago, Bob, we had to play as a complete and total team, offense, defense, kicking game, and fortunately all three of them got on the bus and showed up at the stadium and acquitted themselves well.
Let's roll those first half highlights, and when we pick it up, we'll see a couple of big plays by the Gopher defense, which is really sticking some people this year.
Well, defensively, this has been a tremendous year, particularly the last 2 weeks. There's Joel Brown, a walk-on freshman, sacking Everett for a loss. And here on 4th down and 1, a tremendous play here by Peter Nigerian and Bruce Holmes. Defensively, the togetherness, and you just can't say enough about it. Then we take the football. Ricky comes out here on an option, gains 9 yards. He runs that option as well as anybody I've ever been around. He's got some great blocking here as he comes out here. He's going to keep the ball for another 7 yards before being tackled by Woodson. I felt that our offensive line, as I mentioned, played well, particularly Hitchcock. Ricky comes out here, keeps on the option, takes it all the way down there, and barely gets in the end zone. That's like barely dying. He got in the end zone, and that makes score 7-0. Ricky comes back, pumps fake, throws a great pass down here. Gary Couch catches it, cuts it back, gained for about 50 yards. The score at this time is 7-0, and we have really moved the ball well. Here, as you're going to see how well Ricky executes this, pitches it out to Couch at the last second. Couch gains 15 down to the 1 yard line. Now, we're going to give the ball. That's the end of the quarter. Here gets a fine block from Valdez Baylor. Wilson goes in there, puts us up 14-0. But Purdue was such an explosive football team. This young man can really throw the ball. There's a great catch by Jackson, good for a gain of 17 yards. They drive it down. Briggs kicks a 46-yard field goal to make the score 14-13. But once again, our defense dropped back. Here's a great play by Larry Joyner, who has just played so well. Tackles Everett for a loss of gain of 5. And after we get the ball back, come back here, we become a big play football team. Hit Gary Couch good for 64 yards and a touchdown. That makes it 21-3. The crowd was absolutely fantastic at the football game. Now you're going to see a great hit by Holmes and Joyner here. He makes a great play. Boy, you can see that. Our slogan, Joel Brown recovers the ball. Our slogan on defense is meet me at the ball carrier. Here Ricky comes out here, great play, pitches the ball back here to Valdez Baylor. Tremendous effort, not to be denied. Valdez goes in, 19 yards, a touchdown. Gary Couch makes a great block on that. Puts us up 28-3. Everett goes back to scramble. Here Mark Deuce Bobbick, our other end, is going to force him out of bounds as Larry Joyner chased him also. The football players, Steve Thompson, Doug Mueller, Burke had really have played tremendous. Here was the bad thing. We fumbled the football there, gave it back to Purdue. Boy, we really had the momentum going 28-3, a chance to get on. Here's a great play, tremendous throw there. Griffin catches the ball, goes 27 yards for a touchdown, 28-9. We came right back with it just before the half. Couch is going to break a tackle here and go 16. Gary carried the ball 4 times for a gain of 44 yards. Kevin Starks, Otto, played well. Then Dave Puck picks up 13 yards in there. He comes up there 11 yards right up the middle. And just before the half ends, we win 35-9. And, just a tremendous performance in the first half. And I can't say enough, you can't mention all the football players, but Mel Anderson, Rocky Gaylord, so many of them played so well.
Something I've noticed, maybe it's just my imagination, but it seems like the Gopher running backs, when they get down to about the 2-yard line, they're lunging for the end zone. Is this something that the coaching staff has told them to do? Because I've picked it up in several games now.
Well, that's the purpose why they have the ball. If they're going to get if they're going to get knocked down on the 2, you become an offensive guard. Now,
but they're leaving their feet and going in the air and lunging into the end zone, which they've done it more than once. So it's not something you've mentioned to them or anything.
No, as I understand, it doesn't count whether you run it in or dive it in. Just so you get in.
All right, so we'll just totally wipe that question.
That's it. Just put it in the end zone. Life's really simple. Just put it in the end zone. I call that cross the alumni stripe. That's what I refer to that at the end.
All right, moving right along. With Purdue so far down, and you had such a great first half, were you worried about the guys easing up a little bit? Because that's always a worry whenever your team gets such a big first half lead.
Well, we've been fortunate in the past. We've had some big leads at halftime, and I have just one pet talk I make at halftime. We got a lead. Let's go out and win the third quarter. Let's go out and win the third quarter. And if we win the third quarter, we'll eat hot dogs, drink Cokes in the fourth quarter, and let everybody play. As it turned out, we won the third quarter with about 11 minutes left to go in the quarter, and so then we got a chance to get everybody in. But it was a Big Ten Conference game. We'd come that far, and I say this, if you do it in one half, then they can do it in the next.
All right, second half highlights. It didn't take long for the Gophers to prove that they were going to win the third quarter. About 2 minutes and 21 seconds, they had already put the ball into the end zone.
We come out right off the bat, and this is just a great catch here by Gary Couch as he makes a tremendous reception, a gain of 57 yards. And we come right back here, come out here with an option, pitch the ball to Terry Stewart. Terry Stewart didn't dive in. Yes, he did dive into the end zone. Terry goes in there and scores. That puts us up 40-9. And we come back here, and what a tremendous block here by Mel Anderson as Valdez Baylor makes a nice run. Goes for approximately 25 yards. They get a penalty tacked on for. We took our first team out then and settled for a field goal. We put our second team in. The first team never went back in. But I think with about 12 minutes to go in the third quarter, it was now 45-9. The game was over. Here, Joyner puts a great deal of pressure on him. Anthony Burke gets in there for a sack. Now Steve Thompson, I think, is going to come through here with a sack. We sacked Everett 6 times for a loss of 43 yards total. And our players just did a tremendous job in putting pressure on him. This guy's a great quarterback. He made some great throws. Here the guy breaks 2 tackles before tremendous effort there by Warren Berry. Gain of 45 yards. That's the only long play we've given up this entire year. And then he gets into the end zone there, gain of 5, and the score is 45-15. Now it's in the fourth quarter. They put in some of their substitute, Downing back to pass. Gary had chased him out of bounds, loss of 10 yards. Tremendous effort by our football team.
Final score 45-15. We talked about each game being a confidence booster. As far as the offense is concerned, they had problems, so many problems against Oklahoma. Scoring that 45 points must have been a big confidence builder.
Well, we've played 4 football games. Our offense has performed exceptionally well in 3 of them. the one game against Oklahoma was a great defense. But I did a very poor job in getting our squad ready for that one. And I can't fault the football team, but offensively, we will play well Saturday, and I think we'll play well on defense.
Did a great job against Purdue, no doubt about it. Gary Couch opened 3 times deep, and that was no accident, and we'll show you why when we continue. Welcome back to the Lou Holtz Show. Now, just a moment ago, we reviewed the highlights, and I know that you noticed the same thing I did, is that the deep passes were crucial in that game against Purdue. Let's watch one of them again. Ricky Foggy unloads and couches all by himself in the Purdue secondary. He makes the grab and takes it into the end zone. A 64-yard touchdown pass. Couch made 3 receptions for an average gain of 57 yards. He was wide open on all 3, and, Coach, those plays were not an accident. Your staff did an excellent job of scouting, and that's what set those 3 plays up. And you're going to show us on the KSTP Electronic Playmaker why they work so well.
Well, our assistant coaches did a great job. I really didn't have an awful lot to do with it. What we were trying to do right here is, you're going to see, we're trying to isolate Gary Couch, and what we want to do is send Gary right down the middle when this linebacker comes up and blitzes. We're going to sell Mel Anderson down the sideline, and Kevin Stark's going to go down here, and these 2 individuals will follow with Kevin. As this guy blitzes, we'll get pretty good protection, and then we just have Gary Couch open right down the middle, and that's what fortunately enabled it to go. As here, as you see, Gary Couch running right down the middle, as we illustrated right here. Here he comes into it. The pass is thrown. Excellent play by the football team. Good protection when you have everybody doing what they're supposed to do. It works out just the way you drew it up. Gary did a great job in catching the ball. Ricky, a tremendous job. But our players had great concentration during the course of the week, and we felt if we could catch them in a blitz, we had a chance to do that. And Ricky did a great job in checking to it.
Many times the coaches will pick out something in the scouting reports, and there'll be tiny things that the average fan won't see. But in this case, those 3 plays really stood out.
I think coaching gets far too much credit. Many times you have a play designed like that, but if the players don't execute it, or if the quarterback doesn't check to it, or the line doesn't protect, then everybody said, boy, that was a dumb thing to do. But it's just a real tribute to our football players.
Well, Lou, if you and your coaching staff could diagram the ideal player, he'd probably look a lot like Dave Puck. Dave is the perfect example of a steady player on the field, a steady performer in the classroom as well. Channel 5's Joe Schmidt takes a look at the Gopher senior.
You could call him Dependable Dave. Need a couple of tough yards? Give the ball to Dave Puck. Need a good block? Call on Dave Puck. The Gopher fullback is proud of his reputation.
Being dependable, that's what they can count on for me. And the key to that is just doing what I can do best, just doing every play perfectly as I can.
Not only is Dave dependable on the football field, he's dependable in the classroom too. He's carrying a B+ grade point average as a pre-med major.
I've always been good in sciences and the mathematics, and so I've always wanted to be a doctor, and I'd like to be, if I could, an orthopedic surgeon.
To become a doctor and still play college football on this level, Dave has had to make a lot of sacrifices. Dave likes to think it's just a matter of setting his priorities.
There's 3 things you can do. You got social life, you got school, and you have football. Well, sometimes you're going to have to cut down. I guess it's got to be your social life. That means on the weekends you got to spend more time with the books. And I believe some guys that aren't doing well in school tend to, stay away from the books when they're supposed to be on.
It's like managing 2 full-time jobs, and in order to excel both on the field and in the classroom, you have to make a commitment. Dave made that commitment when he enrolled at the University of Minnesota.
You can make both things work. Football and school is possible. And I've enjoyed it, and as I look back, I don't want to do anything differently. I just keep trying in both aspects, football and school, as hard as I can.
And that effort has led Dave Puck to be a successful student-athlete at Minnesota. I'm Joe Schmidt for the Lou Holtz Show.
I guess, Coach, the guy's pretty much a model for younger players who want to grow up and play college football to be like Dave Puck.
Oh, he's a class individual. He's one of the few people I'd let have him operate on me before he went to medical school. That's how much confidence I've got in him.
All right, Pilgrim Lutheran Church and the Highland Park High School football team with us tonight, and we have some questions for the coach.
I'd like to know, what are the odds of a walk-on in a large university like Minnesota have of starting?
Well, being honest, at many schools, very, very poor. At the University of Minnesota, very, very good. David Williams starts. Steve Rodas has started. Joel Brown will start some. Paul Anderson. Tom Seary. I just rattled off about 5 people who started either as freshmen or sophomores as walk-ons at the University of Minnesota. And we'll probably letter maybe 13 or 14 walk-ons. It isn't what's behind you, it isn't what's ahead of you, it's what's inside of you. And if an individual thinks I can play major college football, he can't find a better place than here at the University of Minnesota. We've had people transfer from other major institutions saying, I think I can get a better chance in Minnesota. And I'm not putting them down. I'm just telling you, we build our program with walk-ons. They're treated exactly the same. No better, no worse. Many times quite cruelly, though.
Your question.
Does Ricky Foggy call his own audibles?
Yes, Ricky calls his own audibles. If he's going to call audibles, most of the time it will be his. But we have given Ricky more and more leadway in the ability to change plays. Matter of fact, we now, just this week, said to Ricky, you made the big time, son. You can call check with me and call any play you want on certain occasions. We don't do that until we feel a quarterback has great knowledge of the game, which Ricky really does.
Your question.
In your defensive secondary, how much man-to-man do you play versus zone coverage?
Well, we try to mix it up. We try not to play an awful lot of man coverage unless we're inside our 30-yard line. But to be a good defensive secondary, you got to be able to play both man coverage and zone. We feel that no team's going to beat you unless they can run with the ball, either the quarterback running or after they catch the football. And so we like to play zone, and we say this, we'll trade you 12, 14-yard gain in exchange for headache. But we are going to all arrive at the ball carrier, and we are going to put a hat on you.
Coach, maybe the fourth quarter hot dogs and Cokes will have an impact on this question, but it seems in the last few games the Gophers have been giving up a little bit in size and weight disadvantage in some of the key offensive line and defensive positions. Two-part question for you. Do you make a conscious effort to recruit perhaps lighter, more mobile players as you are recruiting? And secondly, do you think this height and weight disadvantage might wear the team down as the long season goes on?
I don't think it'll wear us down, and we really don't put a criteria. We say this, a guy's tall enough if his feet touch the ground. We look at what's inside him, the character and the way they work and the different things that they try to do. And I think if you look at us against Oklahoma, we were outmatched size-wise, but yet in the fourth quarter our football team was as fresh as anything. I think our football team's in excellent condition, and we're going to try to utilize their talents and abilities. But sure, we'd like to be real big, and I'm aware that when we came out, Purdue's field sort of tilted that way, but that's all part of it.
Your question?
Lou, Ricky Foggy only threw the ball, I think, 7 times last week. Do you expect to have to throw more against Northwestern to beat him, or are you going to continue with the ground game that you had against Purdue?
Well, what we feel that you need to be able to run the football to be successful, and we do work an awful lot on pass, and we can throw the ball. But, gee, we just seem to have so much success running the ball, and we get so many 14, 15-yard gains that you think, why throw the ball? The best thing that we can do is put the ball in Ricky's hands and say Shazam, and something good usually happens. But we are prepared to throw the football, and if everybody's going to jump up and jam the line of scrimmage, we're going to throw deep, and your percentage of completing the deep ones aren't real good. If everybody will back off and give us the opportunity to run the ball and mix in with the throw, and we'd love to do that. But basically, we tell our football players this, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. We're not interested in making somebody all-conference or all-American. Those things happen when you win.
We want to thank the members of our studio audience for being with us this week, and in just a moment we'll be back with Rod Person's weekly feature on the university, and also we'll preview that Northwestern game after this. We're going to talk about those Northwestern Wildcats in just a minute, but first I want you to see what Rod Person has for us this week. The university is not only a source of education, but entertainment and informative activities as well. And tonight, Rod has a few of those events on the University of Minnesota Update.
All right, Bob, here we go with the update. Everyone is invited to attend the inauguration of Kenneth H. Keller, 12th President of the University of Minnesota. That's Friday, November 15th at 2:30 in Northrop Auditorium. By the way, a reception will follow at 4 p.m. at the Radisson University Hotel. The next distinguished Carlson lecture will be that of Lane Kirkland, President AFL-CIO, 12:15 p.m. Monday, November 18th in Northrop Auditorium. It's free to the public. Call this number for more information. The U of M Theater presents a wonderful musical called Working, adapted from the book by Studs Terkel, opening November 1st through the 17th at Whiting Proscenium Theater. Call 373-2337 for more ticket information. The dedication ceremony of Donald N. Ferguson Hall, that's the beautiful new School of Music building on the West Bank, will be Friday, October 25th at 2:30 in the afternoon. The public invited to attend there. The University Marching Band indoor concerts at Northrop Auditorium will be on Sundays, November 3rd, 10th, and 17th at 3 p.m. Tickets at Dayton's and Northrop or call 373-3431 for more information. And finally, a postscript. The university graduates from 1935 will have a class reunion on Friday, November 1st, 1985. Hallelujah, Skyuma, 50 years. Congratulations. Here's a number to call for more information. I'm Rod Person for the Lou Holtz Show.
Class of 1935.
That was just 2 years before I was born.
Let's talk about Northwestern. You can't take the Wildcats lightly. The Gophers have lost 3 in a row to the Cats. All 3 have been extremely disappointing losses, and they seem to be a thorn in the Gophers' side.
Well, we have lost to Northwestern because they played very well. Sometimes certain teams bring out the best in other teams, and we seem to bring out the best in Northwestern, and we certainly will this Saturday down there. I think we play 4 straight homecoming games in a row. The first one will be down at Northwestern. It's on TV. I think kickoff's at 11:38, which is a little bit unusual, but this is the best Northwestern team in the last 4 or 5 years. I know according to Denny Green, they have a good offense, a solid defense. They're averaging almost 400 yards a game on offense. Their kicking game solid, and looking at the film, they just beat us last year. Make no mistake about it. They will beat a lot of good teams in the Big Ten. Now, we want to do everything we can to make sure one of those teams they don't beat is University of Minnesota, but it will be a dogfight down there. We're going on the road for the first time and outdoors.
They do have some players on that team, but they self-destructed last week against Indiana. We have a look at some of their key personnel that play on that Northwestern Wildcat football team. We'll take a look at those highlights now.
Well, except for a minute and 8 seconds, here you're going to see their quarterback Greenfield, who's second in the Big Ten in throwing. He gets great protection. The guy scrambles well, tremendous peripheral vision. Throws the ball down here, fine reception, but they really can play. Stanley Davenport is an outstanding runner. He's only a sophomore. And then, of course, Casey Cummings is their second leading rusher. Now, Casey Cummings happens to be the brother of Pat Cummings, who is a freshman here at the University of Minnesota, plays in the defensive secondary. Here you're going to see Casey Cummings running the football there. Casey's a senior. He happens to hail from Madison, Wisconsin. They should have beaten Indiana. I mean that sincerely, except for 1 minute and 8 seconds where Indiana got 3 quick scores on long plays. Here you're going to see a fumble recovery by Plant against the University of Indiana. But twice, Northwestern got to the 1 yard line and didn't score. Then they did finally get down there and get 7. They had a safety. It was absolutely incredible. They're playing with good togetherness. They are very, very confident. I don't think there's any doubt about it that we will face a very fine Northwestern football team. And for us to think that we are capable of beating them without anything less than an outstanding effort would be ridiculous.
Now, the last 2 times the Gophers played at Northwestern, the weather was a problem, was a real problem. And just in case it happens again tomorrow, the Gophers are ready. We spotted an unusual technique in preparing for that, Coach. I've never seen this before.
Well, what we did, we started this way back when I was with William Mary in 1969. We had trouble handling a wet ball, so we said, well, we don't practice in the water. Let's soak the ball, and let's learn to throw. When you throw a wet ball, you got to put the ball in your palm a little bit more, makes you concentrate. Then if we see a wet ball, it isn't going to be a problem. I mean, here we got to learn to get used to it at first, but it's just a little bit different. But we think that, hey, if we face in inclement weather, it won't bother us.
We should touch on the fact this is, as you mentioned just a moment ago, the first road trip and the first game outside. More importantly, the first road trip for this young football team.
It is a young football team. You worry about the concentration on the road, but number one, you better pack your defense, you better pack your offense, you better pack your kicking game. You better pack your discipline. You better pack togetherness. Togetherness is the most important thing. I feel a football team that plays well on the road is one that's usually very, very close, because you're going to be in a stadium, there's only 60 of you, there's going to be 30,000 of those other folks, and you're going to be screaming and hollering, and you do something good, the stadium's going to be quiet, which is a new, unique experience for us. But it's a Big Ten game. It's important to us. I have all the respect in the world for Northwestern, and if we can beat Northwestern on the road, then I would be able to say, hey, this is going to be an awfully good football team. But boy, it'll be as big a challenge as we've had this year. This game will be more difficult to win than Purdue was. I felt that coming into the season. I really feel that way now.
I asked both you and some of the players at practice this week, are you thinking about Northwestern differently than the other teams because you've had those 3 disappointing losses? And they said, no, the coach keeps telling us we have a goal, and that's 1 win per week. We don't care who we're playing, but it's 1 win per week. Tell me about that, because you say it to them almost every day.
Well, that's our goal. Just win 1 game a week. And we don't even talk about who we're playing. We don't even talk about the opponent. Oh, we'll talk about this offense, this defense. You have to do this certain key. But it doesn't matter who we're playing. We're going to go out there to play to the very best of our ability. And to me, I think that's a secret. When I was at NC State, we'd never beaten Penn State in the history of the school. And then all of a sudden we said, hey, forget about who we play, never mention their name the entire week, and then we beat them on a regular basis after that. Never lost to them the remainder of the tenure there. Sometimes you can get psyched. Boy, you say, well, they don't expect them to make a first down. They're not supposed to be very good. And then the minute they do, then you panic, you fall apart. Forget who we're playing. Let's just go down there and do the same things that caused us for the last game of the season last year and the first 4 of this year to play real good competitive football. I got a lot of confidence in this football team. If they're as close as I hope they are, it'll be an exciting season.
Well, it should be a good game tomorrow between Northwestern and the Gophers. Highlights next Friday night at 10:30, and we'll look ahead to the Indiana game next Friday right here on the Lou Holtz Show. You be right here.
The Lou Holtz Show was brought to you tonight by your 16 Twin City Northland Ford dealers. Nobody knows the Northland like Ford. By Snapper Snow Throwers, available at over 300 independent servicing Snapper dealers in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And by Midwest Federal, your good tree to come to for shelter since 1891.